The council chamber stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Ambassador Jiho stood at the center platform, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, 73 different species watched from their elevated seats. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with soft light from within their transparent bodies. They all had one thing in common today. They were all laughing at him. Jiho kept his face calm. He had practiced this expression for years. Inside, his heart beat faster, but outside, he looked like a man carved from stone. Behind him, his assistant Hana shifted nervously. She was young, only 26, and this was her first major council session. She had not yet learned to hide her feelings like Jiho had. The human asks us to restrict the Vren Empire again, High Arbiter Thelvok said from his throne-like seat. His voice rumbled through the chamber like rocks grinding together. The Vren leader was massive, with dark green scales covering his body and eyes that gleamed like yellow fire. This is the 7th petition in 3 years. Tell me, Ambassador, do your people have nothing better to do than complain? More laughter rippled through the chamber. Jiho waited for it to die down. He had learned patience in his 58 years of life. 20 of those years had been spent in the Earth military. The rest had been spent trying to keep Earth safe through words instead of weapons. High Arbiter, the Vren Empire has established military outposts within 50 light years of 6 human colony worlds. This violates the territorial buffer agreements we signed when Earth joined the Concordat. Jiho's voice carried clearly through the vast space. He spoke slowly, making sure every translator could catch his words. Buffer agreements, Thelvox repeated, making the words sound foolish. Your species has been part of the Concordat for only 40 years. 40 years! Some of us have been members for thousands of years. The Vren Empire has held these territories for centuries, before your kind even knew how to leave your own solar system. A delegate from the Morvath Collective clicked its mandibles in agreement. The insect-like being stood nearly 3 meters tall. The humans always demand special treatment. They arrived late to the galactic community and expect us to rearrange our borders for their comfort. Jiho let them talk. He let them mock. He had done this dance before, and he would do it again. That was what Earth had sent him here to do. But today was different. Today he carried a final message in his pocket, sealed in a data chip that felt heavier than it should. We are not asking for special treatment, Jiho said when the chamber quieted. We are asking for the same protection that any Concordat member should receive. The Vren have moved weapons platforms into what should be neutral space. They have intercepted our cargo ships. Last month, 3 human miners were killed when Vren soldiers boarded their asteroid facility. An accident, Thelvox said, waving one clawed hand dismissively. The report was filed. Compensation was offered. Compensation, Jiho repeated. His voice stayed level, but Hana could see his jaw tighten. 3 families lost their mothers, fathers, and children, and the Vren Empire offered them compensation equal to what they would pay for a damaged cargo container. Then perhaps humans should be more careful where they mine, Thelvox said. The chamber erupted in scattered laughter and chirps of agreement. Jiho reached into his jacket pocket. He felt the data chip between his fingers. This was the moment. He had hoped it would not come to this. For 3 years he had followed protocol, filed petitions, and attended endless meetings. He had smiled at beings who looked at humans like primitives who had barely learned to walk among the stars. Earth had joined the Galactic Concordat 40 years ago with such hope. Humanity had finally reached faster than light travel. They had finally found other intelligent species among the stars. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but it was also full of species that had grown comfortable in their power, who saw newcomers as beneath them. High Arbiter honored delegates, Jiho said. He held up the data chip. I carry with me today a message from the Earth government. It is addressed to this council and to all Concordat members. Another complaint? Someone called out from the upper galleries. Jiho ignored them. He walked to the central podium and inserted the chip into the reader. A holographic screen appeared above him, visible to everyone in the chamber. The seal of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. Then it was replaced by a simple text message. Jiho read it aloud. To the Galactic Concordat. For 3 years, Earth has sought peaceful resolution to territorial disputes with the Vren Empire. We have followed every protocol. We have filed every petition. We have shown patience and restraint. We have done everything that a good Concordat member should do. Today we deliver our final warning. The Vren Empire must withdraw its military presence from the disputed territories within 30 days. If they do not, Earth will consider it an act of aggression and will respond accordingly. The chamber fell silent. Then the laughter began again, louder this time. Thelvox leaned forward in his throne, his yellow eyes narrowing. The humans threaten us? With what? Your toy ships? Your primitive weapons? Thelvox stood, his full height impressive even among the tall species of the Concordat. The Vren Empire commands a fleet of 2,000 warships. We have conquered 17 star systems. We have maintained order in this sector for 3 centuries. And you dare to threaten us? Jiho met the Vren leader's gaze without flinching. This is not a threat, High Arbiter. This is a warning. There is a difference. Enlighten me, Thelvox said, spreading his arms wide in mock curiosity. A threat tells you what we will do to make you comply. A warning tells you what will happen if you continue your current path. Jiho paused, choosing his next words carefully. For 40 years, Earth has operated under strict self-imposed limitations. We joined the Concordat in good faith. We reduced our military fleet to meet Concordat guidelines. We restricted our weapons development. We showed restraint at every turn. As you should, Thelvox interrupted. The Concordat exists to prevent the horrors of galactic war. We maintain peace through cooperation and limitation. Yes, Jiho agreed. But the Concordat also exists to protect its members. When that protection fails, when peaceful resolution becomes impossible, then members must protect themselves. Are you saying Earth will leave the Concordat? A delegate from the Pelthic Union asked, genuine concern in its voice. Jiho shook his head slowly. I am saying that Earth has shown remarkable restraint. We have held back. We have tried to be good neighbors and good members. But every species has its limits. For the sake of galactic peace, for the sake of all the civilizations represented here today, do not test the limits of human patience. The chamber erupted in noise. Some delegates argued with each other. Others called out questions. Thelvox simply laughed, a deep rumbling sound that echoed off the walls. The human believes he frightens us, the Vren leader said. Let me tell you something, Ambassador. Your species is young. You have been in space for barely a century. You have no idea what real power looks like. The Vren Empire will not be intimidated by monkeys who just learned to leave their tree. Jiho gathered his data chip and turned to leave. Hana followed close behind. As they walked toward the exit, Jiho could hear the continued laughter and dismissive comments. Some delegates were already moving on to other business as if the human warning was nothing more than an amusing interruption. They stepped through the tall doors and into the corridor beyond. The doors sealed behind them, cutting off the noise from the chamber. Hana let out a breath she had been holding. They did not listen, she said quietly. No, Jiho agreed. They did not. His datapad vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out and read the encrypted message that had just arrived from Earth. It was short. Just 3 words, a protocol's released, prepare. Jiho closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, his expression was harder than Hana had ever seen it. Contact our embassy, he said. Begin evacuation procedures for all human civilians in Concordat space. Contact every Earthship within 50 light-years and tell them to return to human territory immediately. Sir? Hana's voice shook slightly. What is happening? Jiho looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that made her understand why he had spent 20 years in the military before becoming a diplomat. They made their choice, he said quietly. They refused to listen. Now they will learn what humanity has been holding back all these years. He paused, looking back at the sealed council chamber doors. God help them all. Captain Dae-sung hated patrol duty. His ship, the Indomitable, was designed for action, not for flying slow circles around empty space. But orders were orders, and the Earth Defense Force needed ships watching the border with Vren territory. So he sat in his command chair, drank his 5th cup of coffee, and tried not to fall asleep. The Indomitable was small by galactic standards. Just a frigate, barely 200 meters long. The Concordat treaties limited what weapons Earthships could carry in neutral space, so the Indomitable flew with its main systems powered down, looking like nothing more than a patrol boat, which was exactly what Earth wanted the galaxy to think it was. Sir, we are picking up a distress signal, Subin called from the tactical station. She was young, barely 30, but she had graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy. It is coming from New Jeju Colony. Dae-sung sat up straight. New Jeju was an agricultural world, home to 12,000 human colonists. They grew food in the rich soil and lived quiet lives far from Earth. It was the kind of place where people went to raise families in peace. Put it through, Daesung ordered. The speakers crackled with static and screaming. A woman's voice cut through the noise, desperate and terrified. "This is New Jeju Colony. We are under attack." Friend warships appeared without warning. "They are firing on the settlement. We have civilians here, children. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help." The message cut off. Daesung was already moving before the silence settled over the bridge. Navigation. Plot a jump to New Jeju. Maximum speed. His voice was calm, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair hard enough to hurt. "Subin, power up all weapon systems. Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them we have a Code Red situation." "Sir." "The Concordat treaties," one of the junior officers started to say. "Are void the moment Vren ships started killing human civilians." Daesung cut him off. "We tried peace. We tried diplomacy. They made their choice." He hit the ship-wide comm button. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. We are going to war." The Indomitable jumped to faster-than-light speed. The journey to New Jeju took 7 minutes. 7 minutes that felt like hours. Daesung used the time to review what he knew about Vren ship tactics. He had studied them for years, ever since his younger sister had died in a border skirmish 3 years ago. The Vren had called it an accident then, too. They always did. When they dropped out of FTL, Daesung felt his heart sink. New Jeju's main settlement was burning. From orbit, he could see the fires spreading across the agricultural zones. 3 Vren destroyers circled the planet like sharks, their weapons still firing at targets below. "Sir, I am detecting life signs in the colony, but they are scattered and weak," Subin reported, her voice tight with anger. "The Vren are performing orbital bombardment on civilian targets." "How many Vren ships?" Daesung asked. 3 destroyers. Each one is twice our size. "They have not detected us yet." Daesung smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "Good. Subin, remove all Concordat weapons restrictions. Authorization code Delta 79er Black." Subin's fingers flew across her console. Restrictions removed. "All weapons systems online. Sir, we are showing power levels at 300% of previous maximum." Around them, the bridge crew sat perfectly still. They all knew what this meant. For 40 years, Earth had hidden its true military strength. They had agreed to restrict their weapons, to fly slower ships to appear weak and harmless, but every Earth Defense Force ship had been built with its real systems hidden beneath layers of fake limitations, systems that could be unlocked with a single code. "Target all 3 Vren destroyers," Daesung ordered. "Fire when ready." The Indomitable's main railgun spoke first. It was a weapon that fired solid projectiles at 5% the speed of light. The Vren shields were designed to stop energy weapons like lasers and plasma cannons. They were not designed to stop a chunk of tungsten moving at 15,000 kilometers per second. The first Vren destroyer's shield flashed once, then failed. The projectile punched through the ship's armor like paper. The destroyer's fusion reactor went critical. The explosion lit up the space around New Jeju like a second sun. The other 2 Vren ships turned to face this new threat. They were fast. Daesung had to give them that. But the Indomitable was faster. Much faster. Subin fired the secondary plasma cannons, and the Indomitable's computer systems, no longer restricted, calculated firing solutions that would have been impossible under the old limitations. Twin streams of plasma, each burning at temperatures found only in the cores of stars, cut through space. The second Vren destroyer tried to evade, but the Indomitable's targeting computer predicted its movement. The plasma tore through the ship's engines. The destroyer went spinning out of control, atmosphere venting from a dozen breaches. The third Vren ship opened fire with everything it had. Missiles, energy weapons, and kinetic projectiles filled the space between them. The Indomitable's quantum shields, another piece of technology Earth had kept secret, absorbed the impacts with barely a flicker. "Return fire," Daesung said calmly. "End this." The Indomitable fired its full spread of missiles. Not the slow, limited missiles that Concordat treaties allowed. These were real military hardware, each one equipped with its own AI targeting system and capable of dodging defensive fire. 12 missiles struck the third Vren destroyer in rapid succession. The ship broke apart, its pieces tumbling through space. From first shot to last, the engagement had lasted 7 minutes and 42 seconds. 3 Vren destroyers, each one larger and supposedly more powerful than the Indomitable, were now floating debris. Subin, broadcast this entire battle on all galactic frequencies. Daesung ordered. I want every species in the Concordat to see what just happened. And send a message with it. What message, sir? Daesung stood from his chair and walked to the main view screen. Below, New Jeju still burned. Thousands of human colonists were dead. Men, women, and children who had only wanted to live in peace. He had been too late to save them. But he would make sure their deaths meant something. Earth remembers. Earth will respond. He paused, then added, and tell them this is just the beginning. They wanted to see what humanity was capable of. Now they will learn. The message went out across the galaxy. Within hours, every major civilization had received the footage. They watched as a single human frigate destroyed 3 Vren destroyers in less than 8 minutes. They watched as weapons systems they had never seen before tore through ships that had been considered powerful by galactic standards. The Galactic Concordat's emergency session was called within a day. High Arbiter Thelvok stood before the council, his yellow eyes burning with rage. The humans have committed an act of war. They destroyed 3 Vren ships without provocation. Captain Daesung must be arrested and tried for his crimes. Ambassador Jiho stood in his designated spot, but this time he was not alone. 50 human security personnel stood with him, all of them armed. The other delegates noticed. They shifted nervously in their seats. Without provocation, Jiho's voice was cold. Your ships attacked a civilian colony. They killed 12,000 unarmed men, women, and children. Captain Daesung responded to a distress call and defended human lives. That is not a crime. That is duty. The Vren Empire denies these accusations, Thelvok said. Our ships were on a routine patrol. We have the recordings, Jiho interrupted. We have the distress calls. We have the footage from Captain Daesung's ship, showing your vessels performing orbital bombardment on civilian targets. The entire galaxy has seen the evidence. Do not insult us by lying. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates supported the Vren. Others remained silent. A few, the wiser ones, began to understand that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. Thelvok slammed his clawed fist on his throne's armrest. The Concordat demands that Earth surrender Captain Daesung within 7 days. If Earth refuses, we will impose economic sanctions. Your trade routes will be closed. Your colonies will be isolated. Jiho smiled, and it was a terrible thing to see. The Galactic Concordat can demand whatever it wishes. Earth's answer is no. Captain Daesung is a hero who defended innocent lives. We will not surrender him to you or to anyone. Then you leave us no choice, Thelvok said. The Concordat will enforce its will. Try, Jiho said simply. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber, his security team following. The doors sealed behind them. In the silence that followed, the delegates looked at each other with growing unease. They had just witnessed something unprecedented. A species barely 40 years into galactic society had just told the entire Concordat to back down, and they had the weapons to enforce their defiance. Far from the council chambers in the cold depths of the Sol system, ancient machines began to wake. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt powered up for the first time in decades. Beneath the frozen surface of Europa, construction facilities that had been kept in standby mode started their assembly lines. On Mars, in underground bunkers that appeared on no official maps, soldiers trained with weapons the galaxy had never imagined. Earth had spent 40 years preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come, but ready for when it did. The time for hiding was over. The time for restraint had ended on the burning fields. Admiral Taeyang stood on the command deck of the EDF flagship Prometheus and watched the enemy fleet arrive. She was 54 years old, and she had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come, knowing that someday it would. The coalition fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 47 warships from 6 different Concordat species, led by the Vren Empire. They had come to punish Earth for its defiance. They had come to force humanity back into submission. They had come with enough firepower to level planets. What they found waiting for them made their commanders freeze in disbelief. 300 human warships hung in perfect formation in the black of space. Not the small patrol craft the galaxy had seen before. These were real military vessels, dreadnoughts 5 kilometers long, carriers bristling with launch bays, cruisers that made the largest Vren destroyers look like toys. All of them were painted in the dark gray of the Earth Defense Force, and all of them had their weapons active. Admiral, the coalition fleet is hailing us. the communications officer reported. They are demanding we stand down immediately. Tae-yang smiled slightly. She had a kind face, the face of someone who might be a teacher or a doctor. But her eyes held the cold calculation of a career military officer who had never lost a battle, not because she had never fought, but because she knew how to win. "Open a channel to the coalition fleet," she ordered. "All frequencies. I want every ship in their formation to hear this." The channel opened. Tae-yang stood straight, her hands clasped behind her back, and began to speak. "I am Admiral Tae-yang, Supreme Commander of the Earth Defense Force. To the coalition fleet currently violating our sovereign space, you have made a serious mistake. You have come here expecting to find a weak species that will surrender to threats. You will not find that today." On the lead coalition ship, Commander Rethkal of the Vren Empire listened with growing anger. He was a veteran of 50 battles and had conquered 17 worlds. He would not be lectured by a human. "This is Commander Rethkal. Your fleet may be large, but you are still bound by concordant weapon restrictions. You have 47 minutes to surrender Captain Dae-sung and recall all human ships from disputed territories. If you refuse, we will use force." Tae-yang's smile grew wider. "Commander, I want to explain something to you. Something that the Galactic Concordat should have understood years ago. When Earth joined the Concordat, we agreed to limit our weapons to match galactic standards. We agreed to reduce our ship's speed and firepower. We agreed to restrict our military AI development. We did all of this in good faith, hoping to be good neighbors." She paused, letting her words sink in. But what the Concordat never understood was why we had to reduce our capabilities in the first place. They never asked why humanity already had weapons that needed to be restricted. They never wondered how a species that had only been in space for a century could have military technology that worried the oldest civilizations in the galaxy. On the bridge of his flagship, Rethkal felt a cold sensation in his chest. Around him, his officers shifted nervously. "Let me educate you, Commander," Tae-yang continued. "The oldest species in the Concordat achieved faster-than-light travel approximately 3,000 years ago. They spent those 3,000 years in relative peace, cooperating with each other, sharing technology, and avoiding major conflicts. Your weapons technology evolved slowly, through careful research and peaceful development." She leaned forward slightly. "Humanity achieved faster-than-light travel 90 years ago. But we have been fighting wars for 10,000 years. Constant wars. Brutal wars. We fought each other with sticks and stones, then with swords and arrows, then with guns and bombs, then with nuclear weapons that could destroy entire cities. We built weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we came within minutes of using them. Multiple times." Tae-yang straightened. "We did not develop our technology in peace, Commander. We developed it in the fires of continuous warfare. Every weapon system we created was designed to kill other humans who were just as smart, just as creative, and just as desperate as we were. We became very, very good at making weapons. And when we finally left our solar system and found the Concordat, we realized we had to hide how good we were, because we wanted peace." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "But you have taken our desire for peace as weakness. You attacked our colonies. You killed our civilians. You refused every warning we gave you. So now, we will show you what humanity has been holding back. And I pray to whatever gods you believe in that you survive long enough to learn from this mistake." "You are bluffing," Rethkal said, but his voice lacked confidence. "Attack formations. All ships, weapons free." "They are coming," the tactical officer on the Prometheus reported calmly. "Release all restrictions," Tae-yang ordered. "Show them what Earth really is." Across the human fleet, systems that had been locked for 40 years came online. Weapons that had been kept secret powered up. Engines that had been artificially limited to match Concordat standards unleashed their full capacity. The human ships seemed to shimmer as their quantum shields activated, warping the space around them. The coalition fleet fired first. Hundreds of missiles and energy beams crossed the space between the fleets. The human ships did not move. Their shields simply absorbed the impacts, the quantum technology redirecting the energy into parallel dimensions where it could do no harm. Then Earth returned fire. The human railguns opened up first. Solid projectiles, each weighing several tons, accelerated to 5% of light speed. They crossed the distance to the Coalition fleet in seconds. The first Vren destroyer's shields failed instantly. The projectile punched through the ship from bow to stern, and the destroyer exploded. The plasma cannons fired next. Streams of matter heated to 50 million degrees, hotter than the core of a star, carved through Coalition ships like a cutting torch through ice. 3 more ships died in the first volley. Evasive maneuvers, Rethkal screamed. All ships scatter. But the human fleet was already moving. They accelerated at speeds that should have turned their crews into paste, but internal gravity systems that the Concordat had never imagined kept everyone safe. Human ships darted between Coalition vessels, their targeting computers tracking dozens of targets simultaneously. Fighter craft launched from the human carriers, not the bulky, slow fighters the Galaxy used. These were sleek needles of metal and composite, piloted by humans linked directly to their ships through neural interfaces. They moved like birds, like dancers, like nothing the Coalition had ever seen. June sat in his fighter's cockpit, his mind connected directly to the ship's systems. He could feel the vessel around him like it was his own body. He could think a turn, and the fighter would respond instantly. Around him, his squadron moved in perfect coordination, their neural links allowing them to communicate faster than speech. Target-rich environment, his squadron leader called out. Pick your targets and engage. June selected a Vren cruiser and pushed his fighter to full speed. The cruiser's defensive guns tracked him, but he moved too fast, too unpredictably. He released his missiles at point-blank range and pulled away in a turn that would have killed an unaugmented pilot. Behind him, the missiles struck home. The cruiser's shields failed, and secondary explosions rippled along its hull. All across the battlefield, the same story repeated. The Coalition fleet had come expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves being systematically destroyed by weapons and tactics they had never imagined. Human ships moved 3 times faster than anything the Concordat had. Human weapons hit harder than anything they had designed. Human targeting systems never missed. 43 minutes after the battle began, it was over. Of the 47 ships in the Coalition fleet, 42 were destroyed completely. 5 were disabled, their engines gone, their weapons offline, their crews sending desperate surrender signals. The human fleet had lost 0 ships. 3 vessels had minor shield damage. 1 had a scratch on its hull from a lucky hit. That was all. On the bridge of his dying flagship, Commander Rethkal stared at his screens in disbelief. His fleet was gone. Destroyed in less than an hour by an enemy he had thought was weak and primitive. Around him, fires burned and wounded crew members called for help. Admiral Tae Yang is hailing us, his communications officer said quietly. Put it through, Rethkal said. His voice sounded hollow. Tae Yang's face appeared on the screen. She looked sad, not triumphant. Commander Rethkal, you are beaten. We are sending rescue ships to recover survivors from your vessels. We will treat them well and return them to their homes. We do not want to kill unnecessarily. How? Rethkal asked. How is this possible? I told you, Tae Yang said gently. We developed our technology in constant war. While the Concordat species spent 3,000 years in peace, we spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other more efficiently. When we came to the galaxy, we hoped we could leave that behind. But you would not let us. She leaned forward. I am now going to broadcast this message to every species in the Galactic Concordat. They need to understand what has happened here today. Tae Yang's image disappeared from Rethkal's screen and appeared on every communication system in the galaxy. 2 months had passed since the Battle of Sol. The galaxy had fractured. 17 species declared immediate neutrality and closed their borders, refusing to take sides in what was becoming the largest conflict in 3,000 years. Another, 20 species quietly stopped supporting the Vren Empire, though they did not openly ally with Earth. They simply went silent, hoping the storm would pass them by. But High Arbiter Thelvox refused to accept defeat. The Vren Empire had been humiliated, and humiliation was something the proud warrior race could not tolerate. He gathered what remained of his loyal allies and assembled a grand armada, over 2,000 warships from 12 different species. It was the largest fleet the Concordat had fielded in living memory. Thelvox stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Pride of Ren, and studied the tactical display. His target was New Oslo, a human colony world in the Outer Rim. Intelligence reports said the humans had evacuated the colonists, turning the planet into a fortress. Good. He wanted to break that fortress. He wanted to show the galaxy that the Vren Empire could not be defeated. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. We are in position. Begin the assault, Thelvox ordered. The armada dropped out of FTL around New Oslo. The planet hung in space, looking peaceful from orbit. But sensors immediately picked up the defense platforms scattered around it. Hundreds of them, all armed with the same devastating weapons that had destroyed the Coalition fleet at Sol. Weapons free, Thelvox commanded. Destroy everything. The armada opened fire. Missiles and energy beams filled the space around New Oslo. The defense platforms returned fire immediately, their railguns and plasma cannons tearing through the first wave of attacking ships. But there were so many ships. Surely the platforms could not stop them all. Deep underground on New Oslo, young Ja sat in the main command bunker and watched the battle unfold on a dozen screens. She was 38 years old and had spent the last 5 years planning the defense of this world. She had been an architect before the war, designing buildings that could withstand earthquakes and storms. Now she designed fortresses that could withstand fleets. The Vren are taking the bait, her second-in-command reported. They are moving into orbital positions exactly as predicted. Youngja nodded calmly. She had studied the Vren tactics for months. She knew how they thought, how they fought, how they made their mistakes. They believed in overwhelming force. They believed that if you hit hard enough, any defense would crumble. They were about to learn they were wrong. Wait until they are fully committed, Youngja said quietly. Let them think they are winning. On the Pride of Ren, Thelvox watched as his ships slowly pushed forward. The human defense platforms were putting up a good fight, but they were being destroyed one by one. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Perhaps Earth was not as powerful as they pretended. Perhaps the Battle of Sol had been a lucky victory. Sir, we are detecting multiple contacts, the sensor officer suddenly shouted. Ships coming from behind the moon. They were hiding in the moon's shadow. Thelvox spun to look at the tactical display. His blood went cold. A full human fleet was emerging from hiding, over 200 ships, and leading them was a vessel that made even his massive flagship look small. The EDF Retribution, commanded by Commodore Dae-sung. Dae-sung stood on the bridge of his new flagship and smiled. The Retribution was not the small frigate he had commanded before. This was a dreadnought, 5 kilometers of weapons and armor, the newest ship in Earth's fleet. It had been built specifically for this kind of engagement. All ships, weapons free, Dae-sung ordered. Show them what happens when they attack human worlds. The human fleet struck the Vren Armada from behind, while the defense platforms continued firing from the front. The Vren found themselves trapped between two forces, caught in a killing field of their own making. Ships that tried to turn and face the human fleet exposed their flanks to the defense platforms. Ships that focused on the platforms were struck from behind by Dae-sung's vessels. It was a slaughter. The Retribution's main weapons were railguns larger than anything Earth had deployed before. Each shot struck with the force of a small nuclear weapon. Vren dreadnoughts, ships that had been considered invincible, broke apart under the impacts. The human fleet moved through the Vren formations like a knife through flesh, coordinated and deadly. But something else was happening on the Pride of Vren. Commander Vextal, a junior officer, watched the battle with growing horror. He had served the Vren Empire his entire life. He had believed in its strength and its honor. But this was not honor. This was suicide. Around him, other officers were coming to the same conclusion. They had been lied to. High Arbiter Thelvox had told them the Battle of Sol was propaganda, that human weapons were not as powerful as the footage showed. He had told them this fleet could not fail. But they were failing. They were dying by the hundreds. Vextal made a decision that would change his life and his species' future. He drew his sidearm and pointed it at Thelvox. "This ends now," Vextal said quietly. Thelvox turned, his yellow eyes wide with surprise. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done months ago," Vextal replied. "You led us into this disaster. You lied to our people about our losses. You told us we were winning when we were losing. How many Vren have died because of your pride?" Other officers on the bridge drew their weapons, but they pointed them at Thelvox, not at Vextal. The High Arbiter looked around in disbelief, seeing the mutiny spreading across his own bridge. "Guards!" Thelvox shouted, but the guards did not move. They too had lost friends and family in this war. They too were tired of dying for one leader's ego. Vextal stepped forward. "I am relieving you of command. We are surrendering to the humans before more of our people die needlessly." "Never," Thelvox roared. He lunged at Vextal, but two guards grabbed him and held him back. "I will never surrender to those primitives." "Then you can watch from the brig," Vextal said. He nodded to the guards who dragged the former High Arbiter away. Then Vextal turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to the human fleet, all frequencies. I want every ship in this battle to hear what I have to say." On the Retribution, Daesung received the unexpected transmission. He held up his hand, and the human fleet ceased fire. Around him, his crew waited tensely. Vextal's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and beaten, but his voice was steady. "I am Commander Vextal of the Vren fleet. I have removed High Arbiter Thelvox from command. In his name, I offer the complete and unconditional surrender of all Vren forces. We have been defeated. We were wrong to attack your people. I ask only that you show mercy to those who followed orders they believed were just." Daesung studied the Vren commander for a long moment. He thought about his sister, who had died because of Vren aggression. He thought about the colonists on New Jeju, burned from orbit. He thought about all the warnings Earth had given that had been ignored. "Your surrender is accepted," Daesung said finally. "Power down your weapons and await boarding by our forces. Any ship that continues to fight will be destroyed. Any ship that surrenders will be treated fairly under the rules of war." Across the battlefield, Vren ships began powering down their weapons. Some continued to fight, their commanders too proud or too angry to accept defeat. Those ships were destroyed quickly and efficiently, but most of the armada surrendered, and human boarding parties moved in to secure the vessels and treat the wounded. The news of the surrender spread across the galaxy at the speed of light, but it was what came after that truly shocked the concordate species. Vextal's next broadcast was sent to Vren Prime, the homeworld of his empire. "People of the Vren Empire, I speak to you from the human world of New Oslo, where I have just surrendered our armada. I know many of you will view me as a traitor, but I tell you now the truth that High Arbiter Thelvox has been hiding from you for months. We have lost this war. We lost it the moment we attacked the first human colony." Vextal paused, choosing his words carefully. "Thelvox told us we destroyed a few human ships at Sol. The truth is that a coalition fleet of 47 ships was completely destroyed with almost no human losses. He told us the humans were weak and could not fight. The truth is that humanity's military technology is decades ahead of anything we possess. He told us we would crush them easily. The truth is that over 300 of our ships have been destroyed while human losses remain in the dozens." The commander's expression hardened. "We were lied to. Our soldiers died because our leader was too proud to admit he made a mistake. He could have sued for peace after the Battle of Sol. Instead, he assembled this armada and led us into another massacre. I chose to surrender not because I am a coward, but because I refuse to let more Vren die for one leader's ego." The broadcast ended. On Vren Prime, the population erupted in chaos. The truth that had been hidden from them crashed down like a tidal wave. Protests filled the streets. Military units refused orders. The Vren Empire's carefully constructed propaganda collapsed in a single day. Within a week, the Vren Empire fractured into civil war. Factions that supported peace with Earth fought against hardliners who wanted to continue the war. But the hardliners found themselves with no ships, no weapons, and no. 6 months after the war began, the galaxy looked completely different. The old galactic concordat had broken into pieces. Some species clung to the old organization, hoping it would somehow regain its authority. Others had abandoned it completely, seeking new alliances and new ways to survive in a universe that suddenly felt much more dangerous. Ambassador Jiho stood before a gathering unlike any the galaxy had seen. Representatives from 40 species filled the Grand Hall on Helix Prime Station, the same station where the Concordat had once met. But this was not the Concordat. This was something new. "Thank you all for coming," Jiho began. His hair had more gray in it than 6 months ago. The stress of war ages everyone. Today, we gather not as masters and servants, not as strong and weak, but as equals seeking a better future. He gestured to the document displayed on the screens behind him. "This is the charter for the Terran Accord." It is not a demand. It is an invitation to build something better than what we had before. A delegate from the Pelthic Union raised a tentacle. "Ambassador, why should we trust that Earth will not simply become the new Concordat? You have the power to force us to obey. Why would you not use it?" It was a fair question, and Jiho had expected it. Because force creates resentment, and resentment eventually breeds rebellion. Yes, Earth could conquer the galaxy. Our military strength makes that possible. But what would we gain? 1,000 worlds that hate us? An empire that would crumble the moment we showed weakness? He shook his head. We do not want an empire. We want partners. We want allies. We want a galaxy where every species can thrive without fear of aggression. The Terran Accord is built on simple principles. No wars of conquest, mutual defense against aggressors, equal representation regardless of military power, and most importantly, enforcement mechanisms to ensure these rules are actually followed. Another delegate spoke up, this one from a species that had remained neutral during the war. The old Concordat had rules too. What makes yours different? "Teeth," said a new voice from the entrance. Admiral Tae-Yang walked into the hall, her uniform crisp and her bearing confident. The Concordat's rules were suggestions backed by nothing but good intentions. When the Vren attacked human colonies, the Concordat talked and debated and did nothing. The Terran Accord will not make that mistake. She moved to stand beside Jiho. Under the Accord, every member species contributes to a rapid response fleet. If any member is attacked, this fleet responds immediately. No debates, no votes. If you are attacked, help comes. And if you are the attacker, that same fleet comes for you. "You mean Earth's fleet," someone muttered. "At first, yes," Tae-Yang admitted. "Earth will provide the majority of military strength initially because we have it available. But we will train officers from every member species. We will share defensive technology. We will help you build your own forces to modern standards. Within 10 years, the rapid response fleet will be truly multi-species." A Vren delegate stood. It was Vextal, now representing the new Vren Republic. "I can speak from experience. After we surrendered, Earth had every right to occupy our worlds, to punish our people, to take revenge for the colonists we killed. Instead, they helped us rebuild. They provided medical aid to our wounded. They even helped stabilize our government during the Civil War." He looked around the hall. "I fought against humanity. I saw their weapons destroy our ships, but I also saw their mercy when they could have shown none. They practice what they preach. That is why the Vren Republic will sign the Terran Accord Charter today." Over the next hour, species after species came forward to sign. Some did it enthusiastically, believing in the vision Jiho presented. Others did it cautiously, hedging their bets. A few did it reluctantly, seeing no better option. But they signed. By the end of the day, 40 species had joined the Terran Accord. 17 more had requested observer status, wanting to watch how things developed before committing. Only a handful of species refused entirely, choosing isolation over participation. But there was one species that had neither signed nor refused. The Krell Dominion had been ominously silent throughout the entire war. They were an insectoid race, warriors by nature, and they controlled a significant portion of the Outer Rim. Their ambassador finally stood to speak. "The Krell Dominion does not sign your charter." The ambassador clicked through its translator. "We recognize no authority over the Krell. We will continue to manage our own affairs as we always have." Jiho sighed. He had hoped it would not come to this. "The Accord respects your decision, but know that we will defend our members. If the Krell Dominion attacks any Accord member, we will respond." "We understand," the Krell ambassador said, and left the hall. 2 weeks later, the Krell attacked. Their target was a joint colony established by humans and the reformed Vren Republic on the world of Haven. It was meant to be a symbol of the new cooperation between former enemies. The Krell saw it as an insult, a human presence too close to their territory. 3 Krell battle carriers dropped into Haven's orbit without warning. They were massive ships, each one carrying thousands of warrior drones. The Krell did not believe in small conflicts. They believed in overwhelming force. Commander Hana stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch when the attack came. She was no longer the nervous young assistant who had stood behind Jiho in the Concordat chambers. 6 months of war had changed her into something harder, more confident. But her ship was not a warship. It was barely armed at all. "All civilians to emergency shelters," she ordered. "Send out a distress call on all Accord frequencies. And someone find me a weapon. If I am going to die today, I am taking some of them with me." But help was already coming. June led a wing of 12 fighters from the nearest Accord patrol station. His fighter cut through space at speeds that made older pilots nauseous. He had been decorated after the Battle of Sol, given his own squadron, and told to train new pilots from the Accord member species. Today, those new pilots would see their first real combat. "Stay in formation," June called to his wing. "These are Krell battle carriers. Big, slow, but heavily armed. We hit the weapon emplacements first, then the drone launch bays. Do not let them deploy their ground forces." His fighter screamed past the first Krell carrier, his plasma cannons carving glowing lines across its armored hull. Behind him, his squadron followed, their shots less precise but still effective. The Krell carriers began launching their drones, thousands of small craft that filled the space around Haven like a swarm of angry insects. But June's squadron was not alone anymore. More Accord ships were arriving every minute. Fast attack craft from 3 different species, cruisers from Earth and the Vren Republic. Even civilian cargo ships armed themselves and joined the fight, refusing to let their new colony die. On Haven's surface, Youngja coordinated the ground defenses. She had been brought in to design the colony's defensive systems, and she had learned from New Oslo. Underground bunkers protected the civilians. Automated turrets rose from hidden positions. The colony had looked peaceful and vulnerable. It was not. In orbit, the battle raged. The Krell fought with typical ferocity, their ships absorbing tremendous damage before falling. But they were facing a coordinated defense by a dozen species working together. More importantly, they were facing human technology that they had not prepared for. Earth's newest weapon was unveiled today, quantum displacement cannons. Admiral Taeyang had kept them secret, waiting for the right moment. That moment was now. The EDF destroyer Judgment arrived at Haven after a record-breaking faster-than-light jump. Its captain, a veteran named Dongjun, had trained specifically to use the new weapons. He targeted the largest Krell carrier and fired. The displacement cannon did not fire energy or projectiles. It fired impossible mathematics, equations that violated the normal rules of space and time. The Krell carrier did not explode. It simply ceased to exist in this dimension, displaced into a parallel reality where it would drift forever, its crew not even aware that their universe had changed. The second Krell carrier saw this happen and immediately tried to retreat. But Dongjun was faster. Another shot, another impossible flash of light. The carrier vanished. The third Krell carrier did not try to run. Its commander opened a communication channel and said a single word in the Krell language that translated roughly to surrender. The battle for Haven had lasted 23 minutes. 3 Krell carriers had been neutralized. The colony was safe, and the entire galaxy had watched it happen on public broadcasts. On Helix Prime Station, Jiho watched the footage with grim satisfaction. He had not wanted another demonstration of force, but the Krell had given him no choice. "Send a message to the Krell Dominion," he ordered. "Tell them that the surviving crews will be returned unharmed. Tell them that we do not want war with the Krell. But tell them that if they attack any Accord member again, there will be consequences they cannot imagine." The message was sent. The Krell response came within hours. Their High Queen herself appeared on the communication channel. "An unprecedented act for the normally reclusive leader. The Krell Dominion has reviewed the battle footage. she said in her clicking language. We have concluded that continuing hostilities with the Terran Accord would be unwise. We request peace negotiations